welcome back at another tutorial right here on Designer Today. In today's tutorial we're going to be working in Sketch and we're going to create this simple split screen page for this product called the Vitality Shot by the Press Juicery. So fire up your Sketch and your browser because we're going to need some assets to download before we get started. And yeah, let's do this. So first of all, let's go to Unsplash because that's where I got the product image from. I literally just looked for product because I needed some kind of inspiration on what to work with, and I came across this shot. So yeah, I went ahead and downloaded it. Unsplash is a super cool source. You can use these images for pretty much anything. So go ahead and download it over here. And then I'm going to show you as well the website of the actual product. This is real. I looked it up because I wanted to have some kind of product description to use rather than coming up with something myself. So we have our title here, a product description, price, pretty cool here. They use some nice icons for their ingredients, so I want to go ahead and use these as well. So make sure you save them, and we're going to use them later on in Sketch. And other than that, I use this font that I found on Google Fonts. So please go ahead, find it. I'm going to put the link down below in the description. And go ahead and download the font family, the entire family. So we have all the nice styles. And make sure you install it on your computer so that we can actually use it in Sketch. If you have all these things, then let's get started. Again, this is the end result. This is what we'll be working on. Another cool thing that I want to show you today is on how to create this icon. So it's this shopping bag, and most of the time designers get their icons from some kind of library that is probably paid. This is pretty basic icon, so I want to teach you on how to build this yourself. So you don't need to rely on another source for your icon. Once we're at it, once we're going to do this, you'll see that it is pretty simple to do this yourself because you kind of have to go back to basic shapes. The way we do this icon, you'll see it's literally a triangle, a square and a circle, and that's it. That's our starting point. We manipulate it a little bit and we're going to be done within minutes to create this icon. And also don't forget to get the logo from the Press Juicery website because we want to be placing it here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a blank page so I can take you through this step by step. First things first, we need an artboard. So pressing A on my keyboard, I'm going to go for a desktop HD of 1440 pixels in width and 1024 in height. There we go. This is our canvas. So I'm going to go to my Finder. As you see, I've already downloaded all the assets, so I have my Unsplash image. I have a folder called icons with the ingredient icons in it, and I have the logo from their website. So in Sketch, let's get started with the Unsplash image, the product image. And I'm just going to drag it into my file. You'll see that it's huge. The quality is pretty good, but yeah, we're going to need this smaller. I'm going to go for, actually I'm going to just eyeball this myself. I'm holding the Shift key to keep the proportions of the image. And I'm going to size this down just a bit so we have the shot nice and clear in our screen. Something like this. Whoop. There we go. We can always resize and reposition it in a little bit. And because it is a split screen, we need some kind of rectangle to as a container for the content that we're going to have. And it is going to be 720 pixels in width, as that is exactly the half of the screen. And I'm going to set the color to white. And actually, we might be using this color more often, so I'm going to save it to the document. I'd already saved an orange, which I'm going to give you the hex value in a second when we need it. And this one is just black, which is 000. We're going to use these three colors throughout the design. So I like to have them there in my color in the panel for some easy access. So first of all, let's rename layers to keep our file nice and organized. So this is going to be the content background. And since it's already positioned exactly where I want it to be, I want to lock this layer so we're not accidentally moving it. If you hover over the layer in your layer list and you press the Alt Option key on your Mac, then you'll see that it changes into a lock and you can click it to lock the layer. For now, I'm also going to lock the layer of the product image. We can always reposition and resize it later when we're done, because as you see, it's not quite in the center of the half of the screen. We'll fix that later. I'm going to go back to my Finder because I want to be adding the logo. And just drag it into your sketch file. And I want it to be a little bit smaller. Make sure you click the lock here as well at the top right corner of the screen in the width and the height so that we keep the proportions. I'm going to make this 20 instead of 26. And I'm going to position it at the top left corner. I'm actually a fan of using the X and the Y positioning here. So I want it 80 pixels from the side, which is the X position. And then the Y, we're going to change that a little bit later, but for now I'm going to put it on 60. So it's nice top left corner where logo should go. And it's time to draw an icon. So remember the shopping bag that I showed you? Right over here. So we're going to be drawing this from scratch ourselves. Then we're going to put this bubble on top with a number in it, indicating the amount of products that are in the user's shopping bag. Let's get started with drawing the icon. We're going to start with a rectangle. So press R on your keyboard and it's going to be a rectangle of 24 pixels in height. It's going to be tiny. We're going to do 24 in height and we will do 22 in width. And it's already the size that we're going to use it, but we can just zoom in and sketch so we can see what we're doing. So first of all, we're going to turn on the border and we're going to turn off the fill. And for the border, we're going to use black. And the width of the border is going to be 6 pixels. Let's make this 2, 3, 2. Let's start with 2. You can always change it later. This is the starting point of the bottom part of the bag, so the bag without the handle. And we're going to manipulate it a little bit. So we want round corners here at the bottom, but not at the top. So we're going to go into the border radius. And normally you're able to, there's only one number there. We can actually add 4, meaning the first number is going to be for the upper left corner. The second number is going to be for the upper right corner. The third for the bottom right corner, and the last number is going to be for the bottom left corner. And you have to separate it by a semicolon. So we're going to go for 0, 0, 10, and 10. It's probably too much. Let's go for 5 and 5. And there we go. So this is a starting point for our bag, and the top of the bag is going to go in diagonally just a tiny little bit. So if we double click on the shape, you will see that you're now in editing mode of this shape. You can tell because of the little circles at all the corners. We can actually pick up these circles and move them. Okay, so let's move the upper left one 1 pixel in and the upper right one 1 pixel in. So it becomes a little bit more of a bag shape. We're already over halfway done. It's that easy. The only thing we need is the handle. So we're going to draw a circle of 12 by 12 pixels. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to turn on the border and we're going to turn off the fill. And we're going to make this 2 pixels as well, so that the thickness of the lines is all equal throughout the entire icon. That's one of the most important things in icons, is consistency. So this is our starting point. We want to keep the upper part of the circle, but we want to get rid of the bottom part. Sketch has an amazing tool called the scissors, which come in super handy. So go ahead and click it here in your toolbar. If it's not there, you got to customize your toolbar. which you can do by right-clicking in the toolbar and say Customize Toolbar, and you can pick whatever you want to have here at the top. Since I use scissors like all the time, it's right here for me to use. I can go ahead and just cut out parts of this circle, which is great. Once you're done editing, you can just hit the escape button on your keyboard to go out of the editing mode of the shape. And we need these handles to be a little bit longer so that it's going to overlap and go sort of like over this shape. So we're going to double click on the circle. And we're going to add a point. So you will see that you have this little pen icon with a plus next to it. We're just going to add a point here. You're going to click on it. And we're going to want to add a point on the other side. So don't just go ahead and click here because you will get this kind of shape. We're going to click back on the point that was already there from the circle. And now we can go to the right one without actually creating a line between the 2 points. And then here we're going to go down as well. And we're going to hit escape to get out of editing mode. Now let's put this on top of the bag. And we want these points to be a little bit longer. So we're going to go back into editing mode, and you can now just pick up this point. And just like we did with the upper corners of the bag, you can just move them with your arrow keys. And the right one obviously as well, so it's nice and equal, something like this. And let's zoom out to see what we've got. The handle is perhaps a little bit big. So rather than having a width of 12, I'm going to make a width of 10. Let's see if that looks better. I think so. And rather than having these straight ends of the line here of the circle, or that once was a circle, let's make the ends with rounded corners. So it fits nicely in with these rounded corners of the bag as well. And there you have it. It was that simple. We created our own icon. As you see, there's still borders of a shape, this one and this one as well. And that's not really ideal for icons. So we're going to select both of these layers. So we have path and rectangle. Okay. And we're going to go here to union. Sorry, no, we have to convert to outlines first. That was I was trying to get to. So we're going to go to layer, convert to outlines. So now they're actual shapes. They're no longer a border, but they have a fill color now. And now we're going to go to combine and then union. So they become one layer here. It's called combined shape, which we can easily rename to shopping bag icon. And enter. And there we go, all done. On top of that, we want a little product counter. So there's a little circle. So press O on your keyboard and it's going to be a 12 by 12 pixel circle. And let's pick the orange for this. So the hex value that I used is FE9A01, or you can just pick a color from the product image. So it matches the juice in the bottle. I'm gonna put that over the bag, something like this. And we want a little text box on top of it for the number of products. I'm just gonna type 1. All right, the text box is here. And of course, this is way too big. So we're gonna change this to font size 10. And as you see, I'm using the font that we've downloaded before from Google Fonts. And maybe this can actually be 9. Let's see, maybe it looks a bit better. And I'm going to make this text box a little bit wider, let's say 8 pixels, and then I'm going to center align the text, so then it becomes easier to align this text box to the circle. Let's zoom out to 100%. Maybe this number is a bit smaller, it's hard to read on 100%. So I'm going to change this back to 10. Let's Still not the easiest to read. Okay, 12. But then the circle's gotta have to be a little bit bigger because it's very close to the edges. 15 by 15. Let's do 16. There we go. So it's nice in the center. And if we go back to a 100% zoom level, you will see that now it's a little bit easier to read. Maybe bring this back to 11. I think that looks good enough. Let's rename some layers because this is still called oval. So it's going to be, let's say, product counter backgrounds. And together with the shopping bag icon and number 1, let's group all of this. Let's say shopping bag. Something like this. And then I'm going to want to align this with the logo. So I'm going to top align them. And then after that, I'm going to hit center align. So the logo will move down a little bit. That's okay. It's still 60 from the top if we look at the shopping bag. And the only other thing I would like is, just like we had 80 pixels on the left of the logo, I would like 80 pixels on the right of this product counter. The reason we cannot measure this using the Alt Option key right now is because we locked the layers. So I'm going to unlock content background. And now I see that it's 179 pixels. So let's move it to 80 pixels from the side, the right side of the content background. Once you have that, I'm going to lock the background again because I don't want it to move. And now we've got it. This was it from the top part. We can get started on the content. So let's start with a text box. And we can go to the website of Press Juicery to get the product title. So Vitality Shot. And we're going to paste this here. You won't see it because text is still set to white. Let's change that to black. And then we're going to use the same font. We're going to use this in regular. And the font size is going to be 36 pixels. And I like some character spacing because if we set the character spacing to 0, I think the letters are pretty close together. So for readability and aesthetics, I want to make this 2.4. And I'm going to align this together with the logo. So this is also 80 pixels from the left of the artboard. And I'm going to change this to left aligning the text. Just in case that I write a longer product title later on, it's going to be nicer. And I want this to be in all caps. So rather than actually typing this in all caps, it's better to use the functionality within Sketch. So if you go to text, transformation, we can say uppercase here. The difference is that if you ever were to change your mind to put this back to, for example, where are we? Text transformation to none. And if I had typed it already in all caps, then I would have to retype it to be in lowercase letters. So rather use this functionality within Sketch. Just in case you change your mind, it's just a click rather than retyping all kinds of things. So there we go. We have the product title. Then below that, we're going to have the price. So I'm going to just duplicate this layer by using the Alt Option key. And in that, I'm going to type $350. And we're going to use a little bit of a different font size here. It's got to be a little bit smaller for hierarchy. So we're going to make this 24. And then we can use bold instead of regular. And I would like this to be the orange color that we used as well in the product counter bubble. So we're going to use the orange, whatever orange you picked. And I'm going to want to space this out from the product title. And the spacing in between is going to be 20 pixels. There we go. And then we have our product description. So we can go back to the website and simply copy and paste this. And we go back to Sketch, and I'm going to duplicate this layer again. And in here, I can just hit paste. Now, the reason why I duplicated this might not be the quickest way. The reason I like it that the placement is already correct, because this is now also 80 pixels from the side. First of all, let's put this back to transformation none. Okay, so see, this is how easy it is. You can just switch back and forth between uppercase, lowercase, or none. And for the body copy, we're going to use a different font family. I would like to use Source Sans Pro. If you don't have this yet on your computer, you can also find this on Google Fonts, so you can download it there. Font size is going to be 16 for the body copy, and character spacing, we're going to set it back to 0. And you'll see now that we have quite a wide text box and one line of text. You can either drag this back in, or you can just change the width here to something that is closer to what it should be. I want this to align with the end of this button, shopping bag. So I can do two things. I can either select this and put a guideline there. And now I can play with the width. If you didn't put a guideline there, you will see that Sketch will also kind of snap to it. And it will help you out. If you want to get rid of guidelines, you just got to drag them to the left, to the upper corner, and they disappear. Now the lines are a little bit close together of the product description, which doesn't really help with readability. I like to have a lot of spacing, especially when the paragraphs are quite short. I think you can add some extra. It looks really nice. It's easier to read. So let's go ahead and add some line height. And I'm going to add 32 because it is twice the font size. It's nice to have some kind of system in there as well, like 1.5 times the font size, 2 times the font size, something like that. There we go. Nice and easy to read. And it looks pretty cool because of all the nice white space and the breathing room around it. Now we're going to place this 40 pixels from the price. There we go. And then below that, we're going to have a smaller title. So again, I'm going to duplicate the product title. And in here, I'm going to write ingredients. I want this to be all caps as well. The only thing that I would like to change is the font size. So let's bring this back to 16 as well. And perhaps we can use a medium font weight. So it's a little bit thicker. Yeah. I think it matches the product title a little bit better. We'll put 50 pixels in between the product description and ingredients. There we go, 50. And then below here, I would like to place the icons that they already currently have on their website, which you should have downloaded it, so they should be on your machine. You can simply just select all of them and drag them right into Sketch. And you will see that they're all bunched up together. So let's separate them a little bit in layers. Oh. And we got to put them in order. So the coconut came first. Lemon, pepper, there we go. Spacing right now doesn't really matter because Sketch has a really nice built-in tool that's going to help us do that. So let's select all of them. First of all, we're going to center align them. And then we're going to hit this tidy button here at the upper right. And Sketch will now put spacing in between the icons that is equal. Icons got to be a little bit smaller as well. So let's use the scale tool for that. And rather than the height being 41, I would like for this to be 35. Let's tidy again. And we'll put 15 in between, or maybe 20. I think it's nice and spacious. Once you have that, I like to group this because again, I don't want to accidentally move this around. I spend some time in spacing it nicely, so let's group them so they stick together this way. I'm going to rename this group to icons. Okay, so now I'm going to drag this towards the ingredients title. And we'll move it as well 80 pixels from the side of the screen. And the spacing between the title, ingredients, and the icons will be 30 pixels. Something like this. Okay, we already had 80 from the left because it's snapped to the beginning of the ingredients title. Now I do think we can work a little bit on the hierarchy here, and I'm going to work with color in order to do that. I think the icons ask for quite a bit of attention right now. So rather than leaving the opacity at a full 100%, I'm going to put this at about 40%. And I think it's nicer now because the focus of the user now goes to this part initially rather than here. And what I didn't like on the website was the wording below these icons. It doesn't read very nice because there's one word per line, especially this one. It's the turmeric one. It's not very nice. So I thought of just not giving them titles at all. But when this page were to come alive, it could be nice if on hover, if the user hovers over with their mouse pointer, that the opacity would go back to full 100%. And it could have a little tooltip with the name of the ingredient. I think that's nicer. Actually, I'm not 100% happy with the spacing of these icons. I'm going to add a little bit. So again, here in tidy, what if we did 30? I think it's a little bit nicer. I'm going to leave it here at 30. There we go. So that's done. We only have a couple of things left. Let's start with actually one of the most important things, adding the product to a basket. So we're going to create a button. I'm going to use the rectangle tool, which is R on your keyboard. And we're going to make the height of this button 45 pixels. Keep in mind that for any touch target on mobile devices, the minimum height of buttons need to be 44 pixels in order for people to be able to press it with their finger. And just for consistency and reuse of components, I like to do the same thing for desktop. The width we're going to determine in just a little bit because it's going to depend on the content in it. I'm going to set the fill color to orange because we want this button to be out there so people see it. And we're going to add a border radius so it has full rounded corners. We need a text box. Maybe we can say something, add to bag, shopping bag, bag. Let's say bag. We'll keep it short. And the button text can be a little bit smaller. Maybe 12. And we can also set this text to transformation uppercase. And I think the text should be in white to be consistent with all the other things we've done so far. So let's make this white and let's set the character spacing to 0. Maybe we can make this bold as well. Yeah, I think this is pretty nice. Let's double check on 100%. Maybe bring back the letter spacing. Yeah, I think that helps with readability. I'm going to put it at 11 pixels. Is it too small? No, I like it. All right, let's see the width of the background of the button. Let's first of all rename that layer because it's still called rectangle. So this is called button background. And then the text on top. Let's give it 30 pixels on both sides. So I need to right now on the right side I have 19, so I know I need to add 11. So I'm just going to say here in width plus 11 and enter. And make sure that it is centered. Great. Cool. Let's group these as well together and rename that to button. And I think we gotta clean up our layer list a little bit, or at least put stuff in order. So I like to start top left. So we're gonna go left to right, top to bottom in terms of the order of the layers. So then it becomes really easy to find something back, especially in bigger files. So first of all, logo. Then we have a shopping bag. There we go. Then we have the product title. And then, I just added that to shopping bag. It's not what we want. It's got to be between. Then we have a price, product description, and ingredients, icons, and button. Forgot to place this button. This is going to be 80 pixels from the side as well, and we'll put 50 in between the icons and the button. So 50. Cool. Looking pretty good. Yeah. Just double checking spacing here. Cool. That all looks pretty good. So what I would like to do now is take all the layers of content and group them. And we're going to call that group content. And now we can just use this alignment tool at the top right of your properties panel. And we're going to align it in the center of the height of the screen. It's off by 1 pixel because we can't divide it by 2, but this is good enough. And this tool is a really nice way to just easily help you out rather than doing the math. Cool, we're almost there. I had in mind that you could have some kind of arrow icons over here. So you could switch between products or images of this particular product, whatever you want it to be. So I'd like to add some icons to this image so people can go like one to the left, one to the right, etc. And once we're done with that, we're going to position the image properly so it's all nice, aligned, and a balanced design. Let's first add a background for these arrows because otherwise you're not going to be able to see them. So they're going to be a square of 80 by 80 pixels. 79, so let's make that 80. And then the color is going to be black. And then we'll set the opacity to 80%. So it's kind of see-through. Okay. And on top of that, we're going to draw another icon. So I want little arrows. And I'm going to show you again how to do these super simple. So we're going to hit R on our keyboard for a rectangle. And we're going to draw a square. So hold Shift to draw a square. And we're going to again change to borders instead of fill. And let's make a border of 6 pixels for now. We can always change this later. We're going to set the color to white. So again, go to your scissors. We're going to cut out half of this square. Escape to get out of the editing mode. And now we pretty much have the arrow. We just need to rotate it. So hold the Command key on your keyboard, and if you hover over the corner, you will see the arrows to rotate, and hold Shift at the same time. So you rotate by 15 degrees at a time. And we're going to set it to 45. There we go. That's simple. So let's put it on top of the square that we drew before, and you'll see that this arrow is still way too big. So let's select it and hold Shift to keep its proportions. Probably 20 by 20 is good. This looks pretty good. And you'll see that once you center it, it's not really visually in the center because we're not dealing with a full square anymore. So I'm going to eyeball this one. Yeah, I think that's good. Let's rename some layers. So instead of rectangle, this is going to be arrow background, and instead of path, we're going to say, first of all, convert to outlines. So go to layer, convert to outlines. And rather than path, we're going to say arrow. Okay, and it's somehow jumped a bit. So let's align it again. And arrow backgrounds, they can be in a group. And they're going to be called arrow right. And if you hold the Alt Option key, you can just duplicate this group. And we're going to use this flip option in Sketch to just flip it around. And there you go, we have an arrow pointing to the left. Make sure you rename the group because it still says right. So we're going to make this left. And I would like for this to stick at the left side of the image. There we go. And I would like to move these groups somewhere in between content and content background. That makes sense. There we go. The last thing to do is reposition the product image. So I'm going to unlock the layer and I'm going to play around with it just a little bit to make it visually appear in the center. More or less like this. I'm going to lock it again just in case when I come back to this file I don't again want to accidentally move it. Other than that, we're done with this basic split screen design. Thank you for joining and please subscribe, like this video, let me know what you thought in the comments even if you didn't like it, and please subscribe, there's going to be more in the future, so I hope to see you later. Ciao!